His hand again. Yes, Captain Jack.
What? Yeah, no. Look.
Sarah Jane.
I feel like some sort of cross-dimensional spatial transference.
Whoa.
It's night.
Is that her son?
It's impossible.
It's just impossible.
Whoa. All the big guns. Rose.
Right, now we're in trouble.
Oh.
It's only just beginning.
Whoa.
I'm taking you to the Shadow Proclamation.
Whoa.
Hold tight.
Whoa.
Put it through. Let's hear it.
Exterminate!
Oh, Daleks!
Exterminate!
Dalek Khan.
Exterminate!
No.
But he's got to have some help. Sarah Jane knows.
There's nothing I can do.
Now, Dalek Khan clearly got up to something and somehow rebuilt the army? Unless it's Dalek Khan and some other alien species. Jadoon!
Scopo, tro, no, flow, jo, ko, fo, to, do.
No, bo, ho, sho, ko, ro, to, so. Bokatozo go bafopojo.
Jehu, Shalakatop, woman wept. Clom's gone.
Clom?
Different sizes. Donna, I'm a human being.
Ooh.
Maybe not the stuff of legend, but every bit as important as Time Lords, thank you.
Now, how did Dalek Khan manage all of this?
Project Indigo.
Exposition, come on.
Experimental teleport salvaged from the Suntarans. But they haven't got coordinates or stabilization.
Supreme Dalek, is there news?
Earth has been subjugated.
I mean, is there news of him?
Negative. No reports of Time Lord.
He is coming. The threefold man. He dances in the lonely places. The Doctor is coming.
Oh, Dalek Khan. Whoa. She's seeing something. Heartbeat?
There was something on your back.
Whoa.
How'd you know that? You are something new. Me.
But
I mean the loss that is yet to come. I'll save you.
yeah, they set this up in the last episode quite a bit.
You will lead us into battle.
Right. Yes.
Closes the door.
Just go and get you the key.
Oh. Rose.
Where are you?
Nice.
Exterminate!
Rose? Great shot.
Is that good or bad? Where are we?
The Medusa Cascade.
Whoa. No.
No, don't do this to me.
Oh.
Not now. Tell me, what are we going to do? Please.
That hand.
The Sunwave network is open. You should be able to hear my voice.
Oh, is that the lady
Is there anyone there?
from
Voice? Who's that? Some poor soul calling for help.
Who is that?
Harriet Jones.
Harry
Prime Minister.
Jones?
Yeah, I know who you are.
Yeah, I'm here. That's me.
Good. Now let's see if we can talk to each other.
Look at this, bringing them all together.
And you invented it.
I developed it. It was created by the Mr. Copper Foundation.
Yeah, but what we need right now is a weapon.
But I stand by my actions to this day because I knew that one day the Earth would be in danger and the Doctor would fail to appear. I told him so myself and he didn't listen. Yes?
Ooh.
And they'll trace it back to me, but my life doesn't matter. Not if it saves the Earth.
Mum.
Martha, is that you?
Seal.
Can we follow him?
Just watch me.
There you go.
Just as Dalek Khan foretold,
Kind of looks
the
like
children of time are moving against us, but everything is falling into place.
kind of looks like a mix of Palpatine and a Dalek. He's inside the Dalek, like the case, the enclosure.
Harriet, a source is locked onto your location.
You're in charge now. And tell the Doctor from me. He chose his companions well. It's been an honor. Harriet Jones, former Prime Minister.
Yes, we know who you are.
Oh, you know nothing of any human. And that will be your downfall.
There it is.
The entire Medusa Cascade has been put a second out of sync with the rest of the universe.
Whoa.
Perfect hiding place, tiny little pocket at a time, but we found them.
The feed. He's gonna see everyone, isn't he?
Some sort of subwave network.
Yes.
Where the hell have you been? Doctor, it's the Daleks.
Taking people to their spaceship.
Look how happy he is.
Oh, they're brilliant.
Look at you all, you clever people.
That's Martha.
And who's he?
Captain Jack, don't. Just don't.
Doctor is me.
It's like an outer space Facebook.
They're saving that reunion, aren't they? Dalek Khan.
The Dark Lord is come.
Supreme One, the subway
Whoa.
network, I would address it. Give me access. Your voice is different, and yet its arrogance is unchanged.
Okay, someone from his past.
She's dead.
It is only fitting that you should bear witness to the resurrection and the triumph of Davros, Lord and Creator.
Davros?
The Dalek race.
Whoa.
Doctor.
Have you nothing to say?
Oh my goodness.
But it took one stronger than you, Dalek Khan himself. Emergency temporal shift took him back into the time war itself.
That's
Whoa.
impossible. The entire war is time locked.
And yet he succeeded. Oh, it
That's
got
crazy.
in his mind, but
Death is coming. Oh, I can see it. Everlasting death for the most faithful companion.
Oh.
Wish me luck.
Oh, good luck.
Yeah, good luck, sweetheart.
It's about to happen, the reunion. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it.
What did she say?
Just the darkness is
The
coming.
darkness is coming out.
Anything else?
Why don't you ask her yourself?
Look at that smile. Oh no. Is something gonna happen? Oh. The distance, I could tell by the distance.
I've got you. I missed you. Look, it's me.
Rose, do as I say and get back. He's dying, and you know what happens.
Regeneration.
next.
What do you mean? Not now. I came all this way.
But it's not happening.
Oh, it started.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck, Doctor.
When he's
No.
dying, his body, it repairs itself, it changes. But you can't.
I'm sorry. It's too late. I'm regenerating.
This is it. Oh man. Yeah. That last few minutes of the episode, that hit hard. Okay, folks, that was quite the ending. I mean, that, you know, the whole like last portion of that episode, the last 5 or 6 minutes, really had me quite emotional. You know, now I'll get to the ending. I mean, that just absolutely crushed me, but you know, more of that later. But you know, going back, circling back a bit, you know, that reunion, right? The moment Rose and the Doctor spot each other. Now, you know, throughout the episode, you got a distinct feeling that, you know, they're being kept separate. You know, these two in particular are being kept separate, and you know, it's building up towards this, you know, grand emotional reunion, and it certainly built up to that, right? The moment, you know, the Doctor spots Rose in the distance, and you know, even the moment Donna kind of looks over and she spots Rose, and I clock that, oh, Rose is here now. Whoa, you know, again, lump in the throat, right? Misty eyes, and the look on the Doctor's face, and then, you know, the smile on Rose's face. You know, I really bought that moment. It was, you can't help but smile, right? I think it's like impossible not to smile to see Billie Piper or Rose in that situation. You know, that smile on your face. I completely bought that moment, and you just really feel the magnitude of that moment, right? These two friends, close friends, finally, you know, get to see each other in person. Now, of course, it became clear given you know, the staging of this shot, you know, and those two running towards each other, there was quite a bit of distance, and you know, after a few cuts, it became really clear. To me, it became really clear that okay, you know, it feels like this is too good to be true. Now, you know, they're reunited, but again, it didn't end up being the type of reunion I had in mind, right? Something else happened. You know, anytime the camera lingers like that for too long, you know something's up. And of course, within the next few frames, the Dalek, you know, comes into frame. Now, you know, even that in itself is quite interesting, isn't it? Quite unique that a Dalek is actually shot at the Doctor and hit him. Right? The fact that a Dalek actually hit the Doctor is a big deal because, you know, before this point, I feel like there's been a lot of grandstanding, a lot of, you know, back and forth, talking. This feels like the first time a Dalek has just, you know, forgone all of that and straight up just shot at the Doctor and actually hit him. Yeah, you know, this reunion is, it's bittersweet in that sense, right? But I loved how the Doctor still has his sense of humor intact, right? Tennant, that is, Tennant's Doctor, long time no see. But again, you know, even in that situation, it was still quite a great reunion, right? Again, I really felt the magnitude of it. You know, in that sense, if you go back to Martha coming back on so soon after departing season 3, you know, that didn't really have, you know, I was happy to see Martha, of course. I was definitely happy to see, even though I do think they could have handled some of her recent appearances much better in the role they gave her in their particular stories she reappeared in. But, you know, going back to the original point, you know, this had that feeling because Rose has been gone for some time now, right? So, and of course, you know, the nature of their departure or their separation was quite a tough one to take for both of them. Right, her being locked off in this parallel universe, not anymore, of course. Right now, back in the TARDIS, it's a really high tension situation. You know, a lot of emotions, a lot of confusion, especially on Donna's end, who's certainly quite confused about all of this. You know, some of the jargon or some of the talk that's happening between Captain Jack and Rose, and of course, the regeneration is initiated. That in itself hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, I've been dreading that moment for so long, and that hit me so hard, man. I was a bit of a mess at the end there. Now, that being said, all of that being said, something is off here. Something is off here. And now I say that because at no point did I think that this has been an adequate send-off for Tennant, someone who's been a doctor for three series now, right? He's the first long-term doctor of new Doctor Who, right? New Who. Because Eccleston, as fantastic as he was only around for one season. But now you have Tennant. To me, that did not feel like the proper goodbye to Tennant, right? That being said, the regeneration has initiated. That cannot be denied. I saw that on screen and it crushed me, it had me quite emotional. But something feels off here. I simply cannot accept that as Tennant's goodbye. It is not adequate, not at all. So that is not at all the things I had in mind. As much as I've been dreading it, in my mind I have really particular, not a particular, but like this sense of a grand send off for Tennant, and he deserves it. And and it needs to be a grand send off, and this wasn't it. I mean, I certainly hope not. That would be quite disappointing, to be honest. All of that being said, he is regenerating, or he's in the process of regenerating, and it leaves off on a cliffhanger. Even that in itself is quite interesting. That there's a cliffhanger to a regeneration. You have to take a lot of these things into account. Now, I personally don't believe that this is the end of Tennant. I cannot believe it, because I just don't think this is an adequate send-off for Tennant. Now, I feel like something might happen here. I'm not quite able to, put my finger on it, but I just don't think this is the regeneration from Tennant to Matt Smith. So it might not be a misdirect, because it is, you see it, it's happening. He is regenerating, or in the process of regenerating. But it could be some kind of twist, I think. It could be a twist, because there's a complete episode left, right? A complete finale left. From a storytelling perspective, from a narrative perspective, this is Tennant, or this Doctor's story. Everything about this, everything that's been set up, and everything that was brought up once again in this episode is all about this Doctor's story. So even that in itself feels kind of wrong, right? I just can't see how a new Doctor can come in and take over in the conclusion of this massive arc that has kind of played out over the span of a few series. Not just, this series or this episode, but there's some fantastic planning in this storyline. And it really came together in this episode, right? And the payoff was brilliant in this episode, and it was all because of that setup. And it was a slow build-up, a slow setup, throughout the last few series. Setting up all of these side characters. I think Davies has done a great job of setting up these reoccurring characters, unique and fleshed out characters that, occupy the universe, the storytelling universe of this story. Yes, the focus is mainly on the Doctor and his companion, but, this, setup really allows for this expanded universe of characters and places and connections, right? Be it through the families of the companions, that's played a big part, a major part. Maybe in Martha's season not as much, but this certainly established her family as well. But Rose's family, and then Donna's family, of course, they certainly play a big part in the story itself, in the direction of the story, and how how the story is affected, or the stories of these companions are affected. Be it Rose, be it Martha, be it Donna. They play a major part. So they're not just there to be there to fill some space in an episode, right? Their actions have consequences, or actions against them have consequences, right? And it plays into the main narrative of this story. So the payoff is quite substantial here, because you feel the magnitude of all of these characters that have been set up for the past 3 series. Essentially, this feels like the how do I put this? This feels like the conclusion, not just to this series, but to Tennant's arc as a Doctor. Because it's incorporating everything that's been built up since he came in as a doctor. It really, you really feel the scale of this. And I think, the cold open really established that really quick, as it's showing us all of these companions, these friends, these allies he's made, right? The Doctor's secret army, as they mentioned throughout the episode. So, there's some great long-term planning at play here. For sure. And that one scene, that one moment, as all of them essentially, finally see each other on the monitors, right? Everyone, and the look on the Doctor's face, that smile on his face. I believe he says something like, "Look at all of you, you brilliant people." I think that's one of the biggest moments of the entire show. That's one of the most beautiful moments of the entire show, to see that, all the friends he's made, all the allies, all the companions, all the people that have made a change in his life, and the changes he's made in their lives, to see this big, family, essentially, right? The Doctor's army, the Doctor's friends, allies, companions. That was a beautiful moment. And to get a moment like that is quite special. It is quite special to get all of those people on screen together. In this day and age, you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're quite good at, the long-term storytelling and establishing the different pieces and bringing them all together. It had that type of feeling, that magnitude, that scale to this, right? And again, like I mentioned, the cold open did a fantastic job of establishing that scale. And of course, as the cold open closes out, you see Rose kind of look up, right? And the camera pans up and you see the scale of this. So yeah, right from the beginning, it established that scale and the magnitude of this story, this conclusion to Series 4, and perhaps Tennant's Doctor as a whole, right? Now I think let's circle all the way back to my initial point about the regeneration and it not feeling right, it feeling kind of off here. Taking all of the things I just said into account, this being the 10th Doctor's story and these people that mean so much to him, I just don't see how, from a storytelling perspective, you can introduce a totally new Doctor in the finale of this. Right? It just does not make sense. Because this is this Doctor's conflict. Perhaps his final conflict, but, it is his conflict. And bringing in a new Doctor, he can't just slot right in and take over for him, right? There is that phase of getting used to the new, your new image, your new physical form. I can't remember the exact episode. Oh yeah, this is around the time of the River Song episodes, right? Silence in the Library and the Forest of the Dead. I spoke of once the Doctor regenerating and a lot of things changing. It's not just a skin change. There's a lot of different pieces here, right? That go into the personality of the Doctor, the outlook of the Doctor, the regenerated Doctor. Those things are different, right? So, from a storytelling perspective, it doesn't make sense to have a brand new iteration of the Doctor come in and take over in the last phase of the final conflict of the 10th Doctor. So, all of that being said, it's not adding up. It's just not adding up. But the next step is how is this going to change? He's in the process of the regeneration, so that's a crazy part. I'm excited. I'm excited because I don't believe for a second this is the end of 10, but I'm not sure how. Things are going to change here. But as this episode showed us, a lot of crazy things are in play here. A lot of things are just going on, a lot of MacGuffins, a lot of different keys and protocols, all that. A lot of different possibilities are introduced in this episode. So something might happen here that might do something to delay perhaps the regeneration. I could see that angle, that the regeneration might not go, but it could delay it for a bit, maybe even. I could see that angle. And one of the strong points of this episode is, or the series as a whole of Series 4 is, these clues, these hints, the foreshadowing, right? From day one, since episode 1, they've been dropping, and sprinkling here and there, and I've done my best to, pick up on all of it and keep it in mind, right? And a lot of that comes together in a nice little package in this episode, right? They even finally explain the whole bees are missing situation. Again, that's been a thing since episode 1, Partners in Crime. The planet's missing has been a thing since episode 1, Partners in Crime. So a lot of great setup. And, that was earlier in the first half of this series. There's been a lot of, hints and foreshadowing. And a lot of it is quite, substantial and quite on the nose, in the sense that it's unmissable in these last few episodes. And that's in relation to Donna, right? Actually, there's so much to talk about, but before I completely move on from the topic of the regeneration, and things being set up, another thing that's been set up quite a bit, and there's a not so subtle shot of the hand once again in that container, the doctor's hand. They've been doing that throughout the season, right? They've been bringing my attention or the audience's attention to that. It's quite unmissable, and there's a shot in this episode that is really quite distinct. The camera starts at the bottom of the shot, or at the bottom, essentially at their feet. But the thing that is in the frame or in the focus of the frame is, again, the container, the hand, the doctor's hand, right? A Time Lord's hand, right? And that played a part in the last series finale or two-parter as well, right? The Master got his hands on that hand, right? And a few things became possible because of that. Now, it's impossible to miss, the setup here, the hints or the foreshadowing here that they are alluding to this hand playing a part, right? There's only one episode left. So it still hasn't really played its part yet. So I have to assume that hand is going to play a part in this final episode at some point. Right. They made it quite clear in this episode to bring our attention back to that hand. But, they've been doing it throughout the series. You'll notice that I've noticed just the hand in the frame, and I'll just, call it out. I'll be like, the hand. So could the hand maybe even play a part in doing something here, right? In perhaps delaying this regeneration. Now, with that being said, if I stay on that line of thought that, I don't think this is it, that, everything I just stated just doesn't point towards this being the end of it, the final, appearance of Tennant. If this doesn't happen, can you do, so say this regeneration doesn't play out. Could it happen once again in the finale? That's twice in quick succession, a potential regeneration could happen. But, if I am giving that prediction or, that possibility that, maybe something could happen and that regeneration could be delayed for a bit, that, he knows it might have stopped for now, but it's inevitable, and that's the angle I'm taking here. Could that happen in quick succession again in the finale, right? Because up until this point, I just thought, okay, episode 13, series 4, this might be the end of a lot of things, including Tennant's run as a doctor. But it's possible that this might not be the end. This series might not be the end of it. Again, this is all assuming that, this regeneration doesn't go through. It could play out into the specials. It could. Now I don't know I don't know anything about the specials other than the fact that there's a bunch of them before Series 5 happens, and of course I'll be checking those out, no doubt about it. So I just totally didn't think of that possibility. I was so dead set on episode 13 being the Doctor or Tennant's final appearance, his goodbye. There's there's specials. There's a handful of them, 4 of them, right? So it is possible that Tennant could be in those specials, and that the regeneration might not happen till then. Okay, let's put a pin in that. Now the rest of the episode, there's still quite a bit to get into and discuss, especially stuff that is going to play out in the second episode most likely, because you notice that Donna took a back seat here, right? And the setup for Donna in these past few episodes and right from the beginning of the series as well has been, wow, it's been quite effective, right? So in that sense, it's impossible not to predict something substantial happening for Donna, or through Donna, or because of Donna in this, conclusion going into part 2. But, I'll get back to that. The opening of the episode, it was so clear right from the beginning that this is one of those blockbuster bombastic spectacles, right? And I mentioned in my discussion for Midnight that Davies really likes these types of episodes as well. Usually, they're done in the finales, the grand finales of a series, or earlier in the series as a two-parter. It's actually quite impressive how much they fit into this 47 minute time frame. It felt like a featured length squeezed into an episode, right? Because so much happened. Right, it's a bombastic pace. The beats just keep coming, right, one after the other, and because of the breathless pace of this type of episode or this type of story, this might be the biggest one they've done. Not might be. This is the biggest story they've done since I started the show. Right, since series 1 from Eccleston to this point, this is the biggest, the most comprehensive in terms of bringing everything together, all the in-universe characters and the problems, and of course I still haven't even touched up on the threat, right? Of course the Daleks are back in, and not just the Daleks, but not the Supreme Leader, because the Supreme Leader in this case was the Supreme Leader Dalek, the one in the red enclosure, but the Supreme Creator, Davros, right? Davros. Yeah, I mean, I'll get into that, but also Dalek Khan made a reappearance, and I was really, really excited about Dalek Khan showing up again. And, actually, Dalek Khan was one of my favorite parts of this episode. He was actually one of the most intriguing and interesting parts of this episode for many reasons. Again, let's put a pin in that, and I'll come back to that. But yeah, that threat is established. You see a really old enemy clearly making a reappearance on New Who. But yeah, Davros, the lord and creator of the Dalek race, has made an appearance. And like I mentioned, kind of reminded me of Palpatine. And you see the two reactions, right? The Doctor's reaction and Sarah Jane's reaction. Clearly, these are the two that have had experiences with this creator, right, of the Daleks. Sarah Jane clearly, in the classic series, clearly she had her run-ins, or she knew about this character, and so much so that she stated that no, this can't be. You died, right, or he died. And of course, the Doctor, right. Again, that really unique and almost disturbing notion of the Doctor being frozen and helpless, right? And so much so that Donna had to kind of, reassure him, no, it's safe. But you see through Sarah Jane's reaction and Tennant's acting and Sarah Jane's acting. Sorry, unfortunately, I don't know the actress's name. But yeah, Tennant's acting and her acting, you see how big this situation is. And it is, later he explains how this is possible and how he got out of a time-locked situation, a moment in time. And, at that point, who would have known that, that emergency temporal shift is going to end up, transferring Dalek Khan to the Time War itself, right? I mean, I had no chance of knowing that, right? I had no idea. I thought he's just going to be out there at some point. But, if you go back to my discussion of that, I was sure at some point he's going to re-enter the story, right? And I think I even touched upon a potential of him somehow getting a Dalek army going again, or doing something, right, in his time off or off-screen. Yeah, so off-screen something quite substantial happened. He was transferred to a time-locked moment, the Time War. And yeah, he managed to bring the creator himself back from that situation into this current timeline. So that in itself is insane. Just, Dalek Khan being responsible for that. At that point in time, Dalek Khan was the last of his kind, right? The last of the Dalek race, right? Now speaking of Dalek Khan, I was so happy to see Dalek Khan come back in because, it was one of those unique takes on the Daleks, the Cult of Skaro. I was a big fan of that little group they introduced in the last series finale, right? Series 2? No, not last one. Series 2 finale, sorry. And then, of course, they showed up again in Series 2 in Manhattan. In Series 3 in Manhattan, right? And that was, the end of it. The emergency temporal shift of Dalek Khan just, disappeared. Now I know he ended up in a time lock situation and brought the creator back, or was able to rescue the creator. Now Davros mentioned that in the process of that, being able to go into that time lock situation, Dalek Khan ended up losing his mind, right? Now, that being said, there's something really strange or something actually interesting and unique happening here, I think, intriguing even. You see these new Daleks, they consider him this abomination, this insane, Dalek of the past. So, these new Daleks, and, one of them, again, in the Red Enclosure, I believe, Davros called him Supreme Leader Dalek or something, right? Now, they pay him no mind. Right. Yet, the perceived ravings of this lunatic actually had quite a bit of nuance, didn't they? And there's actually quite a bit of foreshadowing, I think, even. And Davros, he's smart enough, he's intelligent enough to know better. He considers Dalek Khan quite important, right? So in that sense, it even feels like he considers Dalek Khan as this prophetic entity at this point in time, right? And, he listens to the things he has to say. And Davros said as much, right? He said he only tells the truth. So in that sense, you really have to take into account some of the things Dalek Khan is saying here. And, for that reason, Dalek Khan's reappearance or reintroduction is one of my favorite parts of this episode. So later, he's saying things like the Dark Lord, right? In relation to the Doctor, right? Because really early on, he established the Doctor is coming. And then he'll say things like the threefold man. That one I don't know what that means. So, again, some interesting foreshadowing perhaps. Maybe I'll find out in the next episode, the threefold man. And he'll say things like death is coming, everlasting death for the most faithful companion, right? That one had me quite flabbergasted as well. Now, of course, the major aspect of this episode is that all of his companions, his allies and friends are essentially, all here present in this story. So, let's see how this plays out and who this applies to. Now, another thing that was quite noticeable about Dalek Khan is the presentation of Dalek Khan, the lighting specifically, right? It really stands out, right? In that sense, it was actually quite similar to the lighting for Sky or, the Midnight entity in Midnight, right? That character was the one that really stood out from the rest of the characters, right? They were being highlighted. And you see in the shots of Davros and the new Daleks, right? Even if they're present in the shot, in the background, you see Dalek Khan, right? And the lighting on Dalek Khan, it's quite noticeable. I think that's by design. And, to me, it felt like he's being presented as this, ominous figure that's looming above them or everyone, perhaps. I thought that was quite effective. And I really got that feeling from this. That's why I really love this reintroduction of Dalek Khan, right? Again, to these new Daleks, it might seem like the ravings of a lunatic, but, there's something else going on here. There's something quite interesting going on here. And, this Davros fellow, he's a creator of the Daleks. He's intelligent enough to know better, right? And not to discard Dalek Khan as just a lunatic, right? There's something going on here. Now, let's get to Donna. She certainly took more of a backseat in this episode. And, I think because of that reason and of all of this undeniable setup and foreshadowing and hints, I think she's about to play a major part in this final episode, right? I'm actually really on edge now, going into this final episode, given all the setup for Donna. Now, I mentioned the bombastic pacing of this episode, beat from beat, it was just breathless. But there were a few intimate moments in this episode. I felt, some of those moments of Dalek Khan, and then some of these moments of Donna, those were some of the more, intimate moments of this episode. Really took you out of this bombastic situation and put you in this almost like tunnel vision, right? And, something new started happening here. You see Donna kind of zones out, or I don't know, something's happening here, and she's hearing these heartbeats, right? Twice it happened. Now, in terms of heartbeats, the only thing that this, story or this series has established about heartbeats is, really recently, it was the Doctor's daughter, right? The heartbeats played a part. It was Donna trying to confirm that, yeah, she has two hearts. This clone of the Doctor, essentially. So in terms of heartbeats, you know, it's always just been about the Doctor and his heartbeats, right, and him having two hearts. So, you know, bringing this aspect into this is quite peculiar, to say the least. You know, that she's kind of zoning out and she's hearing these heartbeats. Again, let's put a pin in that and see how it plays out in this final episode. And of course, you know, this lady at the Shadow Proclamation, another thing that was set up since the beginning of the New Who, right? I think even in episode 1, maybe in Rose, right? Series 1, episode 1. But yeah, you know, they finally showed me this Shadow Proclamation. To be honest, a bit disappointing. You know, the interior of this place, not quite the image I had in my mind, you know, the mental image. But, you know, that's not the biggest deal. You know, of course, I saw the Jadoon again and this lady who seems to be in charge. But, you know, the one moment of that other lady, who's also some sort of being that is sensitive to these kind of things, because she was able to tell Donna, or she was able to sense or feel that there used to be something on her back, right? She knew about that. And then she says something really strange, really concerning. Sorry for all the loss that is to come, or all the loss that is to come yet, right? Or all the loss that is yet to come. I mean, guys, folks, it is impossible to, you know, ignore all of this. Yeah, this is heading towards something quite sad, isn't it? And she even said, "You are something new," right? So, I mean, something is going on here, and it has me a bit on edge, really intrigued, no doubt about it. And, you know, the fortune teller, she said something similar, didn't she? You know, what are you going to become? So, yeah, you know, at this point, it's established that Donna is about to play a major part. And I think, what is a butterfly in my room? How did that get in? Back to point. God, I forgot my train of thought. Yes, and turn left. That was quite substantial in terms of setup, right? You know, you really have to keep in mind all the things Rose was saying, right? And the most substantial of it being, you're the most important woman in all of creation. Oh, you know, that alone is set up quite a bit, you know, the role that Donna's going to play in this final part. So yeah, you know, I'm certainly excited about this finale, but I'm dreading it as well, because there's a lot of setup here that is undeniable. That is undeniably heading towards something sad, you know. And I feel like Donna is about to play a major part in something. I mean, I think that much is clear at this point, but I'm more concerned about how things might end, you know. Let's see. But, you know, before I move on from Davros, he called the Secret Army of the Doctor. You know, Harriet Jones called it the Secret Army of the Doctor. And, you know, I'll get back to Harriet Jones. You know, great reintroduction of Harriet Jones, I thought. It kind of came full circle, that character arc and that character development. Great character development in that sense. But, you know, he said something else. Davros, that is. He called them the children of time. That's a really specific term. Now, are the children of time... Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the butterfly in my room. Now, the children of time... Who exactly does that mean? Now, you know, my guess on the matter is that he means his companions, or people that have traveled in time, right? Essentially with the Doctor. So let's see how that plays a part in this part 2 or in this finale. And around the time he, you know, name drops the children of time, you know, back in the TARDIS, there's that moment that the Doctor is just completely out of ideas. And this is, you know, the Medusa's Cascade, or the Medusa Cascade. It's beautiful, you know, it's certainly beautiful. And, you know, in that sense, there's a lot of beautiful imagery in this episode. You can see that, you know, a lot of the budget has gone towards this two-parter, hasn't it? But yeah, the being in the Medusa Cascade, that in itself, another, you know, cool follow-up after the fires of Pompeii. And, you know, of course, the Doctor stated that the last time he was here, he was a child, right? But yeah, you know, going back to my initial point, at this point in time, he's just defeated, right? Again, you don't see that often. The Doctor just being out of ideas, at a loss, absolutely defeated. But, you know, you see that in contrast, the Doctor's secret army, you know, all of these characters that he's met and he's become friends with, and his companions, all of them, you see, they're frantically trying to make things happen and get in contact with the Doctor, right? So I love that. I love that moment. You know, he's kind of defeated in that point in time, you know, and you see Donna's trying to get him out of that funk. But I love that moment as it's switching and showing us all of his, you know, friends, allies, and companions trying to get in contact with him. And again, you know, in terms of Harriet Jones, yeah, you know, it came full circle. And, you know, this is one of the things I really like about this take on the Doctor, or, you know, Tennant's Doctor here. You know, he's not some person or some being that's always right. You know, you could even question his decision to kind of overthrow Harriet, right, or put that into motion, that she's not in office anymore. And you see the effects of that. You know, it did allow for the Master to kind of sneak in as well, right? But yeah, you know, the point she made here, and, you know, you can't really disagree here. Yeah, she was kind of, she almost kind of saw this coming, because she felt that, you know, the Doctor, even if she, you know, believes that he does have a sympathetic disposition towards Earth, you know, he likes the people there for the most part, that, you know, he cannot be depended on, because the Doctor is not of this world. He's not human, and that, you know, he might have his own, you know, things to be concerned with, and, you know, that he cannot be depended on once the time comes. And the time came, and you see that Harriet really believed in that notion and really stuck to it. And, you know, in the end, she really gave it all for her nation, for her country, and for the world. Right? She never let go of that notion that, you know, as powerful and incredible as this Doctor might be, you know, they cannot depend on him in their time of need. So she had contingencies in place, right? So, you know, great little reintroduction for Harriet Jones. Right then, that's about it for this one. Really quite excited. Also dreading it, you know, part 2, that is. So, you know, it's a mix of both. I personally don't feel like that could be the end of Tennant. It doesn't feel right. I would not accept that as a Tennant's goodbye, right? It's not adequate, not at all. So I feel like there's something going on here, or something might be happening here, or something could happen here. Let's see, you know, let's see how it plays out. But yeah, you know, I hope this second episode allows for more you know, time on the plot and exposition. And of course, you know, I'm really excited to see Donna's role in all of this. It's been building up towards this, right? It's unmissable. So yeah, I'm really excited and kind of, you know, concerned and kind of dreading it as well, because of, you know, the feeling I'm getting from all of this. And of course, you know, Dalek Khan still remains to be this intriguing figure. Again, like I mentioned, you know, they depict him as this ominous, you know, presence above Davros and the rest of these Daleks. And yeah, you know, even in terms of Davros, you know, introduction to clearly a major character from the lore of Doctor Who. Now, you know, they've introduced that into New Who. So a lot of great setup for potentially a phenomenal series finale, right? I have great expectation for this finale, and it's certainly heading towards that direction, given all of the setup in this episode and in the series and all of the series, right? Since Tennant came in. Again, it really did feel like the accumulation of everything that's been set up through Tennant's run now being brought together in this package, in this 2-part finale. So yeah, I'm excited. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in full length for this episode, or perhaps even early access to the next episode, the finale, consider checking out the Patreon page. It's just an option, but if you are interested, check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment. And also the links to my social media are in there. Twitter, essentially, that's the one I'm most active on outside of YouTube itself. But yeah, you know, thank you for joining me for this one, and thank you for your time. I think I'm in line for quite a fantastic series finale to Series 4, so I hope you join me for that. So until then, take it easy.